Hey, folks, and welcome to the Daily Ratings Podcast. It's a show where each week we'll be sitting down with Vincent Daly to get his thoughts on the latest movies he's been watching, both older films and new releases. And don't worry, there's no spoilers. Vince will give a brief review of the movie, share some thoughts, and of course, then rate the film. The daily ratings are always fair, honest, and most importantly, they're consistent. On today's show, Vince will be rating and reviewing. It's birthday week, baby, so we've got 1959's Anatomy of a Murder, directed by Otto Preminger. We have 1982's The Verdict by Sidney Lumet, The Fugitive by Andrew Davis, Blood Diamond by Edward Zwick, and finally, They Shall Not Grow Old, directed by Peter Jackson. So it is going to be a great, fun episode, folks. Make sure to stay tuned and enjoy. Daly, how we doing, buddy?
Thomas, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Oh, man, a
well,
doozy of a week. You picked some long movies.
I did pick some long movies. I did warn you that I picked some long movies.
Yes, I for a few of these, I'll be honest, I was very tempted to maybe break up the watching. I resisted.
Good.
I watched them all the way through.
Thank you for doing that.
And really, a good week.
It was a good week.
We didn't have to deal with any possible stinkers. So it was a good time watching these and all of these. Very interesting. I mean, I'll say for next year, maybe let's cut the courtroom dramas. I've learned my lesson. No courtroom dramas.
I'm excited to see what you have to say about some of these.
Yeah.
And I thought this week was great. I thought this week was just fantastic.
Oh, do you now? Do you?
But all good movies. I got to tell you, picking these, doing two shoes on these. It was easy, but somewhat difficult.
Oh, sure.
But I've got them for this.
He's locked and loaded.
Any opening notes on your end?
No. Really, again, more so like we talked about, kind of the order to go in for tackling these. You gave reverse order when you unveiled them, so
yes.
Maybe we'll stick with that, or or what are you feeling?
Yeah, we'll start with newest and go oldest.
Okay.
Because I'm we'll end with the courtroom dramas. And I'm most excited about those. Is that how we did it last year?
I don't know. No, because we had Mario, so we did it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we got nothing this week, basically. Yeah. Next week, we're covering Civil War.
Yep.
And then for this week, I'm happy. The one thing I do know, we talked a little bit about Anatomy of a Murder, and I know that you started with it for the week, which I think was very wise. And it's the longest film.
Gotta eat my vegetables first.
Yeah. Or get it out of the way, whichever one. Okay, all right. So let's just start with newest film.
Sure.
Like we said, we'll go backwards from what we typically do. I picked 2018's They Shall Not Grow Old, Peter Jackson's documentary.
Something legitimately on probably both of our lists. You haven't seen this before,
no,
right?
and I've been dying to see it, and it's just a film that you just you don't sit down and just turn on. We're also typically have such a list that we don't get to touch on many documentaries that are just sitting there.
Exactly, yep.
But Peter Jackson, he made a name for himself because this really won a lot of awards. People were so talked about it. And then, of course, he went to do his 3-part Beatles documentary, which once again, everybody loved. He became this amazing documentary director. So let's get into it. We watched this one together as well. So let's tell us what it's about a little bit, and we'll kind of take it back and forth.
Well, it's definitely a doozy, folks. We are one more time with legendary director Peter Jackson here, this being one of his kind of offshoot projects. And like you just said, Tom, first time directing a documentary here. Now seem to have caught the bug a little bit. And while we covered specifically his pre-Lord of the Rings movies, to some varying results, mainly Frighteners and Dead Alive. Here, in addition to Jackson now being a very seasoned at the end of his career, or
middle
maturity
career.
of his career.
Yeah.
Right.
He's plenty of years ago.
Yeah, he's open for a little bit more. All areas of this production very polished, and this was also a huge passion project for him, driven by his own grandfather serving in World War I.
Yeah.
This film also being dedicated to him as well. So, They Shall Not Grow Old, a hell of a title, I guess coming from a poem or something like that, is a massive undertaking set on showing World War I like never before. Collaboration with the BBC and Imperial War Museum allowed Jackson to stitch together audio logs from original soldiers and paired it with original footage from the war front, now fully colorized. We are taken through the very beginning, pre-war and intimately first person for the whole film, as Jackson's goal directing this was to create an experience of what it was like to truly be a soldier in the Great War. Mm-hmm. This restoration effort is almost unbelievable, and I feel like we both kind of had that experience of like, man, no way this can be, unedited in some way, or you know what I mean?
The big thing that we were struggling with, because most of our research was done post, are the voices. There are no people from today speaking on the documentary.
Right.
This is all the people who were in the war speaking. That's the only dialogue you hear, and it's constant. Mm-hmm. But we were trying to think, were these written letters, and now these are voice actors? Mm-hmm. Were they real, actually? Because the audio, to me, sounded relatively consistent.
Sure, yeah.
Even though it varied here, there was like, I don't know, audio in the 50s to get some of these guys.
Right.
What's the deal?
Yep.
And then the end product is all of the images, and especially the ones that are restored, and when there's sound to the images, that is all recreated.
Yes.
But all the voices were real.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the voices were real, and I mean the footage itself is real. More so, it's the colorization, the edit, and some audio engineering as well.
I think all the noise, everything shot in the everything shot was in silence.
Sure.
So basically, every time there's a tank or horses or people talking in the background, mumbling, that is all recreated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is where it's kind of mind-blowing. It's unbelievable as you kind of watch the documentary, constantly second-guessing the monetization of what's on screen. And while certain elements of the footage feel a bit artificial at times, from frame rates to even some post-production effects, most shockingly are these untouched audio logs that are direct words from veterans. This is specifically the Imperial War Museum's contribution. They had these audio logs, and really is just like the most fascinating part because there's no narration here.
No.
There's no narrator, speaking about things from a bird's eye. These are not only audio logs from the soldiers directly, but it's also a degree of just like they're just talking about it so plainly. That it's really without any kind of spin or anything like that. I'll touch on that in a second. This is also exclusively a British perspective on the war, and is a really, really British. I mean, like really British. It's honestly a bit shocking to hear how plainly the realities of war are spoken about. At times lacking everything from empathy to trauma, and most of all being shocking how tough as nails these old-timers were. I mean, like tough as nails.
Yeah, just speaking in a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
And just, it's incredible. I mean, you and I made multiple comments of just like, they don't make people like this anymore.
Right. This was, not even calling it a different generation, different, an era, entirely different reality.
Yeah.
The line that got me the most, and I don't mean to maybe joke about it, but one of the soldiers says, there was this German soldier that reminded me of my father. A mortar shell dissected him nicely. Nicely. Yikes. So that's a little taste of it, but it really is. That is my biggest praise with this. Is all of this is presented so straight and with almost zero spin to change any of the words or footage from the soldiers that actually served. And in this approach, we get a much more optimistic view conjured through the direct voices of this generation. And a viewpoint that is completely foreign by modern day standards. So very, not enriching, but I feel like there was skin in the game to watch this, to grasp that perspective, as a documentary.
Yeah, this was a huge learning documentary.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Where there's a lot of documentaries made today that it's about learning, but it's such a specific, small, minute thing. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially because there's so many. So you learn something very intently, but on something very, very microscopic.
Yeah.
So something when it comes to World War I, to just get a full-on lecture. It was really good. And I think this actually kind of got bumped up in a rating for me because of just the preservation of history, basically.
Yes.
And the retelling of it that could be at least relatively consumable for 2020.
Exactly.
2020s.
Yeah, I'm right there with you because I feel like first time watching it, I was like, wow, this is really academic. This is a little dry when it comes to it. But I feel like for cinephiles and as is kind of my goal with rating documentaries, what's the skin in the game? Why are we watching this? Why is it a recommendation? I feel like for cinephiles, there is a great appreciation of what Jackson has done here as an auteur. And using his skills in his normal movies, his huge movies, and taking that fidelity into this footage.
I'll kind of say my general take on just visually, audio, and everything like that, not including that just the original soldiers of that, because that is just so... You get lost in it. It's crazy just to sit there and listen to soldier after soldier after soldier. But as far as what Jackson did, I'm maybe not as blown away that maybe I thought I was going to be, and I knew the praise that this thing had.
Sure.
And the reason why is because we did go through, right before streaming took off, we went through History Channel after History Channel special of World War II in color.
Yes.
Vietnam War in color.
The colorization craze.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So the colorization, I think, is done a little bit better on this than maybe the History Channel was able to do. The recreating of the audio was pretty impressive. That's something that wasn't quite done before. But I kind of found this to be pretty much the best PBS special that you're ever going to get.
You know
what I mean?
Absolutely.
Where a PBS special can be just whatever, middle of the road, absolutely boring. You learn something, but the presentation just can only be so good.
And that's where this academic spin kind of comes in.
It's a level up on everything, but it can't get away from that feeling a little bit,
Because of how dry and how kind of straightforward it's presented.
Yeah.
I would say, just kind of circling back to some of this first-person view of the war, the mentality and eagerness to participate in the war is really something else. I personally enjoyed the constant barrage on screen of propaganda and examples of that on screen. Most of all, we get an odd variance in tone of the war, especially when compared to the devout anti-war angles of All Quiet on the Western Front and other interpretations. So, even past the starry-eyed notes from recruits, deep into the war, there is a brotherly element on the war front that even extends across enemy lines, which, again, just such a different experience and so informative for that reason. In regards to my kind of side focus on documentaries this year, I think this earns a higher caliber among other documentaries because I'm constantly wondering about the production. And this is what I'm talking about, that there is something here for movie fans, cinephiles, of how they pulled this idea off. I imagine if we kind of talked about this in watching this, I imagine if we ever cover like the cinematography of nature documentaries, a Planet Earth, something like that, I would have similar praise around this note of, I feel like there's value in how did they pull this off, that type of curiosity in the production. And folks, for the enjoyment of this film, it's being awestruck by the abundance of colorized video, and these audio logs come to life for the first time. So really good stuff. Really, the only aspect I'm split on is how heavy-handed the modernization of the footage feels at times. This is most apparent in explosions that feel like a clear edit in comparison. But, the process of upscaling, I get that it's, of course, going to create some artifacts in the footage, some artificiality to it. But sometimes it looks like they were trying to up the excitement of scenes a little too much, which I didn't really care for and felt it was in conflict with the goals a little bit. So.
Yeah. And there's a big question of what really went into this and stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I was on the end of, I'm pretty sure it's all real. I feel like a lot of the effects that might seem overdone or edited in a certain way might have to do with the not so much the colorization, but the degraining of the original footage.
Sure,
because
sure.
the original footage is so grainy.
The upscaling of it.
Right, exactly. Well, and it's also upscaling, and then the motion smoothness that has to go, which I think really does it.
You
And then when
notice
you're
it's some
colorizing
eyes
on
with
top
like
of that.
blinking of these
Yes,
characters.
yeah. Because that original footage is just so grainy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
Also, much higher frame rate of these like old timey cameras. I don't know the exact specifics, but they were shot at a higher frame rate.
we talked about this a little bit with Potemkin last year.
Oh yeah.
But I think 18 frames per second was often common.
Interesting. Okay.
Or 25 when typically it's 30. Correct? Yeah.
Or even 24 sometimes.
Right,
Is
yes,
the
of course.
quote-unquote cinematic feel.
So, yeah, that's right. It's 24. And but I think a lot of the times back then it was like 18, 15, 21, just kind of weird stuff back when you're that old, especially pre-1920. So I think it's the thing of trying to motion smooth, which always runs into trouble.
Right.
And then on top of that, trying to colorize. And then you have oversaturation sometimes. But what was actually digitally edited in, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
If there was much of anything.
Sure. I just feel like that's the only thing that maybe kind of stripped me out of it a little bit. But overall, I would say, folks, I mean, is this the most exciting documentary? No. This very much, like we've been saying, has a strong academic feel in addition to the topic having so many peers in both the film and TV space, a factor that, once again, I was originally going to kind of knock it a rank lower for. But this is also kind of its biggest strength, and reflecting on it, I feel it is one of a kind because of it being devoid of the voice of its creators, not just Jackson, but a narrator, devoid of any kind of spin,
Professors,
any kind of
history professors,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Post-analysis. These are the people that served and experienced what was on the front lines, and I feel like that also does have a slight thematic through line by the end of when these soldiers are talking about coming back to the UK and experiencing the disconnect that the world had for what really went on during World War I. The words of the soldiers speak for itself without narration or context. In that achieves a spotlight that is as unique as its production. I was going to, I was really going to flounder on this one. I did not. This was my own Tommy flip-flop. I didn't know. But it was only after like this really trying to sit down and reflect on it that I feel strongly about it. With that said, we're going to go ahead and give They Shall Not Grow Old an 80 on the dot.
80 on the dot. That's a great score and well-deserving. Now, is that you're sticking with the new, we got talked about this with Jodorowsky's Dune.
Yes.
You're approaching documentaries in a different way.
In kind of a 10 position.
Yes.
I think I'll be happy to bend on that if I really am mixed enough to maybe give it a, let's say a 75
If
or
you need a
65.
0.5.
Yeah. Really the only one that sticks out is the Sparks Brothers, which I gave a 67, but so early on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of cool. I like that for documentaries. I even said back when you said with Jodorowsky, I feel like you might bend it a little bit to get that 0.5.
Right.
Because sometimes 10 is just too much, too big of a gap.
Right.
But I like that because documentaries really are their own thing, and they're so subjective to your interest in what's going on.
Exactly.
But as far as movie making quality, that's what, and with the content that's in here, 80% actually, it totally makes sense.
Yes, content and execution, for sure. I think that's what, again, it's just at a higher caliber than most, and I feel like that's what earns the 80 for sure.
So, and I think I was in the exact same spot. This really was a two shoe, just with a shine, with a bit of a polish on there. But the thing is, and like I said before, I was sitting with it, and then it just didn't feel right because it's such. The preservation of history is just so much there, and because it's in first person told, and there is a speciality to it, even though a little academic, a little bit boring,
a little
and
dry.
a little bit upscale PBS ish.
But
That being said, what is done is incredibly unique, and we certainly didn't stop looking and listening to this
very
thing.
true. Got our attention.
And for that reason, and for how well it's done, and for what's told here is two shoes and a lace.
Wow.
It bumps it up a little bit.
Excellent. Lost the polish.
It did lose the polish, gained the lace. But I think right where you were, because I'm assuming that you were thinking, is it a 70 or is it an 80? Is that where you were?
And also, I was considering 60 just because of how dry it was.
Right.
Like, is this something you watch in class, I know.
I
was very torn on it, but I feel like more and more as I reflected on it, I was kind of just on that first experience watching it, kind of bewildered and like, wow, how did they pull this off? In researching the technicality of what Jackson has done, more appreciation came with that.
Yeah, and I think I'm literally right there with you.
Yeah,
That's exactly why I bumped up my score as well. Okay, all right, so that's 80% for They Shall Not Grow Old, Two Shoes, One Lace. Let's jump back to 2006. This
I'm waiting for it.
This has been on one of our lists and kind of it's one of those films that Vin can't watch without me, a little Tom sitting on his shoulder, screaming into his ear, rooting the film a bit. We talked about it with some John Wayne movies before.
Yep.
2006 is Blood Diamond. We're not too familiar with the director, honestly, Edward Zwick. I think he has some hits, but a lot of misses, I believe, going through his filmography. But man, this is Blood Diamond. This is kind of always forgotten about with Leo a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
Not as much as Body of Lies, which came out the same year. I think.
Body of Lies, this, and I think Revolutionary Road, all like dark Leo movies.
Right.
The Dark Ages.
Let's get into it. How did you like Blood Diamond, man?
Well, this was the movie I had as a DVD on the shelf for years and never opened it. But after this watching, it did feel vaguely familiar, so I must have seen it at some point. You know what I mean? I must have.
I think I know last time that you saw it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was. I think it was right when we started, because it was not rated yet.
Yeah.
But around when we started sitting down maybe and getting some of these films down. Or right before. I'm thinking like 2017-ish, 2016 is last time you watched it.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember. Okay. There were only vague memories. But producer-director Edward Zwick is a little quantity over quality. You hit it on the nail on the head, Tom, for his track record. You get some gems in there, but nothing really sticks out for future watches. If anything, I feel the target of his films are very consistent, usually falling into a action drama tied with a prestige cast and goals of awards season. Here, that is 100% the case. Tied into the Oscar drama of yesteryear, where Leo DiCaprio was snubbed not only for this, but for the much more deserved role in The Departed. This Oscar year, kind of a mess. You look at all the winners, a very scattered year, and I'm just surprised that The Departed didn't sweep everything. You know,
I forgot very interesting. It was 06 as well.
Yeah. I guess.
Wait a second.
Could he have worked that much?
No, he didn't. There's no way.
He pulled a Nick Cage.
Departed might have been like 2004.
No, it's up for nomination this year.
Okay, Body of Lies then.
It had to be 2004 then.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. All right.
Or around that area.
Something like that, yes. So true though with The Departed in this.
Yeah.
Well.
Odd year.
Well,
that's one looking back for, not because I don't think it's really quality. If anything, there's snubs in almost every category. Right. But just interesting how it played out.
So, but you saying what you just said, how he kind of got snubbed for this, it sounds like you actually like Leo's performance here.
I do. I will say I am very much a coin flip on if the accent is good or not. We'll get into that.
That's the big bugaboo critically.
Oh, for
it's
sure.
It's like, is Leo good in this or is he not? Is he dropping accent work or is he not?
Yeah. But for the most part, I really like the characters. I think for me, coming back to this, I was a little underwhelmed just with like the structure of the story.
Dude, same.
Yeah.
I was surprised. It's 2 hours and 23 minutes.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, man, does this need to be 3 hours? I remember this being, I just remember things happening, scenes taking longer to develop.
Yeah.
But we're kind of moving along in this movie.
Right. It's more of a kind of the pacing of an adventure film, you know what I mean? Where there's like a thrill-a-minute aspect to it. It
really is.
Yeah.
I totally thought that we like sunk into scenes way more than we did.
Yeah.
Which lost a little bit of something there.
For sure.
For me.
Yeah. I feel like, I'll get to it in a moment, but in comparison, there's been some films that come out that have dealt with this, how is Leo referred to it in the film? Only in Africa or whatever.
Yeah, TIA.
Yeah, TIA.
This is Africa.
Yeah, I feel like that as a topic has been handled more intimately with a lot of films. Beast of No Nation really comes to mind.
Oh, it's gonna be classic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Movie that everyone forgets about.
Yeah, for real. Blood Diamond is a gritty war blockbuster set in late 90s Africa around the powder keg of underground diamond trade that fueled the Civil War. Smack dab in the middle of this conflict is Jimin Hosu, a displaced father forced into mining diamonds and cursed to find one of the largest diamonds you've ever seen. always pushed forward to find his son, who has been conscripted to be a child soldier, and his ticket to freedom rides on this rock. Where this setting plays an interesting role is in the variety of characters that the conflict attracts. Leo DiCaprio is a slick smuggler who has ties to the local military and diamond trade that gives him the skills to pay the bills, but also get the diamond moving after they find it, presumably. And Jennifer Connelly plays a hotshot journalist, documenting the atrocities of the Civil War, but her real sights set on how this diamond trade is fueling all of it. Together, the trio set out on a hunt for the treasure, all with different skin in the game and resting on a very uneasy alliance. I would say first big note, Tom, you ready for this?
Go ahead.
Big time sunglasses movie. If you're not in shades, you're not it. You're not it. You're getting shot in this film. Sunglasses indicate the plot armor for this movie.
I never would have picked up on that.
It's a big time Oakley, big time Ray-Bans, you name it. Like, if I could have been a trader back then for sunglasses going up big time.
Great catch.
That's first note. I would say my second thought was again around this aspect of it was more simple. It was more straightforward than from what I maybe vaguely remember. I think as a slight critique, the storyline is simpler than it appears, and there's just a lot of chatter online of how that splits the fan base of this film, so I just kind of felt the need to comment on it. Mm-hmm. On the surface, this looks like an intense geopolitical blockbuster, never cutting away from the harsh reality of its setting. Truly having some intense moments of hyperviolence, especially around the children soldiers. And while we do explore this setting a lot, this massive diamond acts as a simple and straightforward MacGuffin, top of mind for nearly every main character to be the real force of what's driving them forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing. This is a thrill-a-minute plot with plenty of successful stories out there further using a complex setting to still breeze past certain elements. So not really mad at the movie per se for shooting lower than what maybe I expected in the setting and in the tone. But like we mentioned a little bit ago, something like Beasts and No Nations, I found it to be more superficial rather than a deep dive into the setting and how exactly this comes about.
Thought it was heavier. Kind of going into it, thought it was heavier and a bit of a bigger movie.
Absolutely.
And it just, all the elements are there, but it felt like a bit of a smaller movie than I remember and a little bit more basic and quicker. Where Beasts goes hard into that world. Yeah. And you're right, it's not a bad thing.
Right.
Because
it's shooting for something different.
Right,
but I feel like there's maybe an expectation with the subject matter that it's a little heavier. Instead, we put emphasis on this trio of characters and almost in once again, I was kind of getting, it may be odd to say for how heavy the film still gets, but an adventure structure to the plot. My big kind of light bulb moment with this is if I was to compare this to Vietnam movies, this would be closer to like a Platoon versus an Apocalypse Now or Full Metal Jacket. Where it's more about platform for actors in the setting and still kind of exploring some of the themes.
Definitely. And it does have total adventure vibes. Where it's just like, get through this level,
You're
and
right,
we're traveling. Right. I mean, the point is to constantly be traveling, basically.
Exactly.
Moving.
Even if you see that kind of simplistic overview as a backhanded compliment to the film, understand, folks, that this is an excellently paced movie.
It really is.
I mean, to your point, you said it could have been longer.
It easily could have been. But the thing is, one through line through, I don't know, 85% of the scenes, time is of the essence.
Yes.
Like seconds matter in so many of these scenes.
Absolutely. The good news is I really did like our trio of characters, as well as the arguable kind of fourth main and David Harewood playing the the adopted radical father of these child soldiers.
He
hasn't been in too much, but I thought he did a good job here.
He did, yeah.
Leo is pretty great. I would say the character is a real badass and earns it. I think important for the action elements of this film. That $1 million question, though, for any viewer, and I feel like every viewer maybe has the question at some point watching this, is that does this accent work? And I think yes. My justification for it, I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are on this. My justification for it is that a true like South African accent is a little shifty into British and Australian. It kind of is somewhere in the middle of the two.
Yeah.
And that dialect. But I don't know. It's tough. I have, it's total coin in the air. I cannot make up my mind on it.
I'm game 100%.
Okay.
I'm into it. I like it. I enjoy seeing Leo in this character a lot.
Yep.
I mean, he totally drives the movie because he's just so this guy. There's no doubt where sometimes he's given it his all, and then sometimes maybe he's just trying to lean on it, and it's not 100% there.
Yeah.
But
you get a lot of these with the romance with Jennifer Connelly. You know, it's in the intimate moments. I feel like it gets loose.
Right. Anytime he's like really smoking a cigarette, I like the way he smokes cigarettes in this one too. I've always appreciated Leo as a movie smoker.
As a movie smoker, great smoking actor.
He is not the best, but I always enjoyed it. He's good in it. And then the accent, I'm okay if it waffles a little bit here or there.
Yeah.
It's very enjoyable.
It is.
And then when he goes into this straight, what is the actual accent called? When he goes into that subset of African dialect.
Yeah, right.
But that's where that government money. I mean,
And folks, if you're wondering what the little Tom on my shoulder is when watching this movie, it's
that government money.
It's that. It's incredible. And it's such a we were joking about it yesterday. It was
first
first 5 minutes.
He breaks into it.
Yeah, he's really coming out hot. I mean, out of the remaining trio, I think as one of the big breakout roles for Jim Hosu. I mean, just truly.
That's how you pronounce his name?
It's tough. There's two ways. I think it's Himon Hotsu, and then you go heavy on the J as Jimon Hosu.
Jimon Honsu. Okay.
Yeah.
Playing Solomon Vandy, by the way.
Yes.
He's playing the one who basically got his family taken away from him, finds a diamond.
Right. Arguable more of a lead than Leo. I mean, Leo does get the lead in
to an
this,
extent.
but he's the heart of the movie.
And famously, he kind of came out and he was just... In Hollywood, he was like, Hollywood totally forgot about me. Everyone loved Blood Diamond and me and Blood Diamond, and then I couldn't get roles. Now he's in that horrible Netflix duo.
Oh, yeah, Rebel Moon.
Rebel Moon, yeah.
He was the dad in Gran Turismo. He's gotten some work. Definitely he's gotten some work. But I feel like here it is an excellent standout role.
He's phenomenal.
Steals the show.
Did he get nominated for supporting?
Yes, best for supporting.
Good, yeah.
That's also another one where it's a mess. It's just like... I don't know. That's
he easily could have won this one.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And I feel like that's another area where definitely a snub in him just not winning.
Yeah.
So, nomination or not, but just I would say it's an excellent role because of the empathy he leads with. You really feel the pain of him losing his family. You know, my cynicism of the diamond being a MacGuffin aside, if there's a driving force for this character, I mean, it's well fleshed out in his desire to reconnect with his family and his son.
His acting is great. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
Because he takes so many different roles of like having to being a slave of the mine when he gets captured, basically, and then also him watching his family get taken away, to also being sympathetic with like Leo and Jennifer's characters as well. So it's a very well-rounded, where Leo's Leo the entire time, essentially, and so it's Jennifer Connelly. This guy's got quite the arc on him.
Absolutely. Even to the point of recklessness, like he kind of screws up a couple times, and it's like, oh my God. But realistic to the desperation of this character.
Yeah.
So, lastly, the romance with Jennifer Connelly, I would say a bit of an eye roll. I know this is a big time crush for you, Tom. But...
Love Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
Love Jennifer Connelly.
She's gorgeous.
She's still gorgeous.
Right.
It's amazing how she does it.
I guess the eye roll comes from one particular phone call she has that kind of had me dying laughing. Like, obviously, it's like deep spoilers, but I can't get into it. But
I love seeing these two. I was like, man, these two work. They should have ended up together.
Yeah.
Screw Kate Winslet, Leo and Jennifer Connelly all the way.
Sure.
I'm buying these two right now in Africa, just like doing their thing. It's fantastic. She has this one. she gets like real with him at one point, and just a few of her lines, I'm just like, I'm into it. I think they're very believable characters.
Yeah, absolutely, and I liked her.
She's gorgeous in this film. It's crazy.
He's going on. I really think her journalist character added complexity. It's time away from the action.
The most boring parts, but yeah.
But also, I think I was craving that because again, I was looking for more substance, and they were to be found in those.
You definitely needed a third character.
Yeah,
big time.
Absolutely.
Again, but in this, the reason why I just felt like this was a shorter film than I remember, because I thought there was just more of her and Leo to develop this bond that they want you to have by the end of it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I don't know if it was completely 100% earned really at the end.
And that's where there's a phone call. There's a phone call. I was laughing at.
I wasn't laughing. I wasn't doing no laughing.
You were crying. Over this tragedy. I would say when it comes down to it, there are some big action sequences here that to me felt a little bit unbelievable. You commented on it feeling smaller than I thought. I thought it was a little bit unrealistically big at times with like some explosions and whatnot. That's when it comes to this being, again, a big blockbuster kind of war epic almost. That's where I kind of had to like tamper my expectations a tiny bit. There's a tendency for bullets to hit everyone but our main characters. If they're wearing sunglasses, they're good. And some serious plot armor at times, but not enough to take you out of the film entirely. And I say that even for myself. What doesn't touch the main characters is still brutally shown in the methods of war from the region. And overall, I think this is a recommendation for, again, our actors involved. I feel like if you like any three of these actors and a little bit more, the action on screen is good. Maybe not the most substance for its story, but it would be a recommendation for watching these actors in, a prime of their life, for sure. And honestly, that is... this lack of substance is only a burden because of how drastic this setting is. And I think the good news is if you're looking for more substance, there are plenty of films that shoot for that as their goal and what they're trying to tell. With that said, we're going to go ahead and give Blood Diamond 2006 a 68.
68, all right.
He's upset.
I really thought we were hitting 70s there. With some of the happy talk.
He's upset.
68, okay.
I thought I was going to do a little bit better. Than that.
All right. So,
we are on the same page, though, as far as
it sounds
some
like
slight disappointment.
Yes. But overall, not a huge amount of disappointment. I will say I kind of fought with this one, too, a little bit.
Yeah.
Because this was going to be kind of a two shoes polish for a while. Because going into it, I was like, this is an easy 2 shoe 1 lace. Isn't even 2 shoe 2 laces. Like, so that's what the breeziness of this and going through it. And I was, all of a sudden it's over, and it's just like, oh shit, okay, all right. I just thought it was more impactful than it really turned out to be.
Yep.
It just nudges its way up there, though. This is 2 shoes 1 lace.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah. Get that 68 out of here.
I love it. It's just okay. This is. Yeah, which by the way is a good score. Let's not forget it.
Oh, absolutely.
I think a 2 shoe 1 lace is right around your 75% mark.
Sure. And don't let this, this 68.
Bring down the whole episode. No, I wasn't making that.
Better than Major League. Let's just say that.
Was Major League in the 50s?
No. I think it was low
62,
60s.
62 or something like that.
Yeah.
That got 2 shoes and a polish. Okay, so we're going to take a jump. We're just going to get off of this right away. Okay, so we're going to jump into 1993. When I gave you these films, the one film on here that you were like, I'm not too excited about this one, it's The Fugitive.
Yeah.
93, The Fugitive, Tommy Lee Jones. This has just been on my mind for probably like a year or over. And so by like November last year, I'm like, this is totally birthday movie. I want to see Harrison. I had a bit of a Ford renaissance. I forget what we watched, but I was just like, I need to see him when people really, where he was like going. You know what I mean? Where he was just... He could get any role he wanted, and he was just on fire.
And universally, The Fugitive is like considered one of his best for sure.
Right. And then we love Tommy Lee Jones, and I also like the fact that this is the first Tommy Lee Jones role that we get. We just watched
No Country
for Old Men. And I forgot just how many roles Tommy was where he's chasing the bad guy. Because it's this, And then they redo this film in U.S. Marshals.
Yeah.
Basically, he has that. And then he has The Hunted,
Yep.
where he's facing Benicio del Toro.
Right.
And then he finally does There Would Be Blood. By the way, I think he just came out in another film that had, I want to say Jesse from Breaking Bad.
Okay.
Or somebody like that. Or the bad guy who's in a lot of movies. But the only thing coming to mind is the bad guy in 3:10 to Yuma.
Oh, okay.
Not Russell Crowe, but his second one.
Yeah.
But that guy, they just came out with the film together, and it seemed like it was like an Amazon film. It did not do well critically.
Okay.
But they were, in the previews of it, trying to totally put Tommy Lee back in this No Country role. So anyway, he's in this kind of role constantly.
Typecast.
I think it starts with The Fugitive. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes. This is PG-13, 1993. How did you like The Fugitive?
I was very impressed with this movie.
Oh.
Out of nowhere. And like you said, this was the most unexpected choice for the week because I did not know your deep dive to Harrison Ford. I knew Paul Newman, but
Yes,
and legit has never seen this film, despite a very big
you never seen it?
Yeah, very big reputation on this one.
Okay.
And super iconic in a lot of moments that I certainly recognized, but never really watched for myself. This being iconic roles for both Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford, glad to watch it. And while it's far from the first film for Tommy Lee Jones that he kind of did this angle, it's definitely his biggest breakout, which I'm shocked again I haven't seen it for that reason because I really like him. So
yeah, Tommy is crazy because, I forget how old he is here, but he's not young. I mean, he might be late 40s, 50s, early 50s, Tommy. And you're right, this is kind of his breakout role. It's just funny that it's just like, wow, what was Tommy Lee Jones in the 70s and 80s? I know he was in stuff.
Yeah, he's in plenty, but nothing stand out.
It took him that long to kind of get found.
Yeah.
And it's like him and Morgan Freeman had that same thing.
Sure, yeah, great example as far as 90s breakouts like that.
Which is crazy to think about.
And we come across that a lot of times. Christoph Waltz, a great example. Late bloomer, we'll call it.
Yeah, that for a modern guy, yeah.
Yeah, but good stuff. This is also, without a doubt, the most famous film for cinematographer turned director, Andrew Davis, that he's done. Before this, connecting with Tommy Lee Jones on 1992's Under Siege. Not a great movie. We're just going to leave that there.
Maybe we should watch that again soon.
Yeah. Again?
When was the last time you saw it?
Oh, I don't know. Definitely a TV watch.
By the time we got Tommy Lee being the bad guy.
Yeah, it's
true.
What
I mean?
It's true. I definitely like him, as the bad guy for sure. Other than that, Andrew Davis, I don't know. He did Holes with 2003 and Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I guess you and someone else out there will be a fan of that. The Fugitive is a big-time 90s movie mixing crime, mystery, and drama into a fast-paced chase plot. Dr. Richard Kimball, played by Harrison Ford, is a top brain surgeon who comes home one night to his wife mysteriously murdered, and all evidence pointing back at him. Quickly convicted and sentenced to death row, a new path is laid out for him by a super, super sweet train wreck scene that allows him to become a fugitive. Seriously, folks, some unexpectedly good VFX in this scene.
It's a real train.
Yeah.
They were like, we have one shot to do this.
Wow.
And if we mess it up, there goes all our money.
I paused it multiple times because I was trying to spot, no way. This
real?
is a miniature and what? Yeah.
Nope.
Really excellent, unexpected excellent. This fishy escape brings in the U.S. Marshals, led by Tommy Lee Jones and a crack team, who are hot on his tail at all times and have a huge amount of manpower behind capturing him. Dr. Kimball must not only prove his innocence, but survive as a convicted murderer on the run, with only his intelligence to outsmart the bloodhounds chasing him down. I would say almost immediately, I was very impressed with the writing here. The writing worked for me because Harrison Ford's character, Dr. Kimball, might sound like any other protagonist, but it's really one of his most heroic roles among the many Harrison is typecasted for. He is a hero.
I know.
He's not really a villain.
I think we're going to have to approach this 90s Harrison again.
Yeah.
I mean, what's one where he's the president, Air Force One?
Oh, right, yeah.
Right. The clear and present danger. We might
sure.
some things out there.
Competing with Clint Eastwood,
Yeah.
in that kind of not old timer action, but 90s action. When it comes to it, I just felt it was so strong because he operates like a doctor, and that does tangible things, many tangible things to the story. Who he knows, what he knows, and his IQ used to against everyone chasing him. If anything, these are used wonderfully in the script as both advantages but also vulnerabilities in the breadcrumbs he leaves behind. The character is certainly put in extraordinary circumstances, but not once do we see him suddenly become a super spy action star out of nowhere. We rarely see him operate outside of his specialty, and when he does, it's for dramatic set pieces, like the train wreck, like the water dam scene. It's for moments that are paid off in the film. We've talked about it plenty of times on the podcast now, folks. It is the Jurassic Park effect, and it is operating within the characters, how they are written. And for this chase story, it defined the stakes in a truly great way. I was just thrilled with this character writing. Best of all, I think the strength of this character is found in the fact that he still wants to preserve life as a doctor. And we are shown this constantly in his actions. You can maybe say, it's a little silly that he's trying to save someone during this chase that's always on his tail. I mean, it's life or death, quite literally. I felt like that came as such a strong defining factor for this character and why it was so heroic for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, but it wasn't so out of control. It was something that was right in front of him that he could quickly do. And you buy the fact that you have this doctor still is a doctor at heart.
Yes.
Just the absolute want to help and having the knowledge to help. Also crucial to the story because it's really what turns Tommy Lee Jones, or starting to turn Tommy Lee Jones as well.
Absolutely.
Why was he stopping when he absolutely should not have been stopping?
Yep.
Because Tommy Lee Jones, his biggest thing is, I don't care. He's like, I don't care whether you think you're innocent or not.
Right.
Tommy Lee has a job to do. That's all he cares about for the entire film.
That's such a great scene, though, because Harrison is so out of breath that he's just like, I didn't kill my wife. And Tommy's like, I don't care. He sounds like Two-Face. He really sounds like Two-Face so much in this movie.
I love Tommy in this. Looks like we got a gopher.
Yeah.
I love when Harrison Ford does the big jump down into the dam. He's like, we got Peter Pan. And then he just goes, boom! He was awed by the spectacle.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's talk about some aspects of Mixon, and it is kind of Tommy. It's also not Tommy. I personally thought his acting was very entertaining, in the realm of Two-Face from Batman Forever or Major Chip Hazard from Small Soldiers. I'm joking. But it is in the yell. It's in the yell, I'm telling you. That's what ties his two acting styles. It's either small voice Southern gentleman,
yes,
or yelling Two-Face, Major Chip Hazard.
It's true.
But it's really more in how the character is used in the story and just the kind of incompetence of the U.S. Marshals that just annoyed me. I was super into this idea of a crack team of feds on his tail at all times, keeping the pressure up, and forces this character to always be thinking creatively. But Tommy and the team just lose constantly. I mean, they talk a big-ass game, but do not have the skills to back it up. I mean, I get completely. I completely understand that you cannot catch him right away.
Yeah.
I get it. But their shortcomings took away from the threat in the story a little bit for me. My main note is structure the miss in a different way to not compromise the menace, if that makes sense. Like, structure, yes, they can't catch him. Yes, there's going to be times that Harrison outwits them and they're left, with their tail in their hand or whatever. That's fine, but just structure the miss so that they get something, or at least that it doesn't compromise the threat, the menace of the force against him, where by the end, I was kind of just assuming that, of course,
they're going to get tripped up somehow.
Right. I no spoilers because it's pretty deep in the movie, but there's a scene with a glass, like bulletproof glass closing doors, and it was just like, okay, we can't open this a little faster, and you know what I mean? Like, I feel like sometimes when they were losing, the U.S. Marshal team, this crack team was losing, the way the losses are structured, the misses are structured, it felt like it compromised the threat, the stakes behind them being on his tail so often.
Yeah, I don't think I had that completely. It's just so baked in the cake that they can't get this guy.
True.
And I thought Tommy Lee Jones and the team was actually doing pretty well. The point is that the only person that really knows what they're doing is Harrison Ford.
Yeah,
and
true.
the fact that he's doing stuff that a criminal wouldn't be doing or going to the places they wouldn't be going, I like that element of that's why the marshals are tripped up constantly because they're trying to find a criminal, but they're
expecting them to be worse.
That's not actually who they're dealing with. They're not dealing with a criminal, so why is he behaving in this kind of way? So I kind of like that because even there is some stuff that Tommy Lee Jones is always just barking out orders, and I do like some of the stuff that's going on. So, for instance, at one point when Harrison Ford is talking on the payphone, and Tommy Lee Jones is just like, let's isolate some stuff in here. What was that sound? What is this guy talking in the background?
Oh, yeah.
So there was some intelligent stuff that wasn't just local cop stuff. So I don't know. I wasn't quite getting that.
Fair enough.
But I don't know. Maybe I was just too rosy-eyed and loving Tommy Lee Jones too much. You know what I mean?
Sure. And I definitely love him in this. It's just that, if anything, I kind of wanted him to have some wins. You know what I mean? To sell me on this crack, this crack team, these experts, they're the best of the best.
Right.
So I wanted that to kind of have some follow through in the action a little bit.
Here's a question. Who's a better U.S. Marshal? Tommy Lee Jones in this or Raylan Givens? Timothy Olyphant in Justified.
I think Olyphant he's more competent, certainly. He certainly cares. He cares.
His team, by the way, like Tommy Lee Jones' team, just a great number of recognizable faces.
Oh, yeah.
But don't know the actor's name.
Yeah. You got Pantaglio from, or I don't even know that's his name, from Sopranos.
Yes.
And Matrix.
Yeah, what is his name in Matrix? I forget what his name is. I just had it too.
Cypher?
Yeah, Cypher.
Yeah.
And then the woman, you have Rose from Lost.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Oh, by the way, this brings up, last week I was pushing for you to... I had made a comment, maybe you do the original Roadhouse along with the new Roadhouse. 2 reasons also for this week. There's a character in this movie that is also in Roadhouse. It total bit part. So in Roadhouse, you have like a really big bouncer that remains, that like sticks it through the entire time. He plays a cop right after the train scene, and he's just there for background cop. Doesn't say anything, but he's there. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the bouncer.
That's the dude.
That, and then there's another one coming up too. That's pretty great.
It's great. Yeah, isn't in the, not the verdict, no, in Anatomy of a Murder? Yeah, isn't it one of the main guys in Roadhouse?
Yeah, the main bad guy.
Wow.
I know.
Unreal. And kind of a bad guy in Anatomy of Murder, too. They're a dicey character. I found myself a little annoyed with the soundtrack here. To me, it felt like just very wannabe Silence of the Lambs from 2 years earlier, of course, done by the great Howard Shore.
Yeah.
I can't even really explain it. It almost felt like Theme Park Ride at times. It was like just a bit too in your face with how blockbuster it felt. Do you get that?
Yeah, I felt... I don't know. To me, it felt so much trying to just strip the 80s off. You know that scene, that third Spider-Man scene where he's trying to get Venom off of him? You know what I mean? Tobey Maguire's trying to rip Venom off of him.
What a phenomenal callback.
I think that's what the soundtrack does. We're trying to strip the 80s off of it.
Right.
Just enter into the 90s, which also had some of its own problems.
Sure, right.
That's how I took it. Just kind of blockbusters early
Exactly.
90s.
Yeah. And really, I'm not trying to throw unnecessary stones at James Newton Howard. He has certainly done a huge amount of soundtracks.
He's on the site a lot, yeah.
Yeah, but just an area where it showed its age and where something I didn't expect it from. And I feel like if I had to really boil it down, it feels not derivative. I feel like that's a little harsh, but just a little bit copycat of Silence of the Lambs with Howard Shore.
It didn't add, for sure, yeah.
Right. But I thought this was really good, surprisingly good.
That makes me very happy.
Yeah, and some surprisingly excellent filmmaking in unexpected areas. I can't really say I always like Harrison Ford, but if anything, my nerves about this, potentially hating this film because of Harrison Ford or something like that, it went all out the window. I really think this is one of his great heroic roles and a rare case where I was rooting for the good guy the whole time. With that said, we're going to go ahead and give The Fugitive a 79.
79%, very good score, and a 2 shoe and a lace.
Yeah.
Easy on this one. This was super easy. 79, great score. Definitely an easy 2 shoe, 1 lace, big time. Because it is, I don't know, I was rooting for both of them. I enjoyed these guys so much.
Yeah, Tommy Lee is definitely an anti-hero
of
sorts, a heel. I mean, I can't tell you how lackluster I am on Harrison Ford.
And I knew that going into it,
and how much this won me over for that.
That makes me really happy.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you were able to just watch a movie that you enjoyed too. That I had to pick. And Tommy, I'm finding that Tommy Lee, I think of him as he's constantly making me laugh. And I don't want to, and I know that could be insulting to a very serious actor.
Right.
But
Flashbacks to the Jim Carrey incident.
Dude is hilarious, though.
Right.
Every single line and the way he delivers it is so hilarious. But all right, Vin, with that, let's go ahead and get into our producer segment here. So we finally have a producer this week.
Oh, for the birthday!
Yeah, and it's a very good friend of the show. We have producer Sean.
Oh, excellent.
So he sent in $30 this time, this week, and he says, "Happy birthday, Tom!" Exclamation point. I hope you have a great day and your birthday week of movies were 2 shoes and 2 laces. We're close.
Close enough.
What has been your favorite movie of all your birthday episodes? Also, what do you think will be the best movie for the remaining 2024 year? Well, birthday episodes, I mean, we've only had
got
1
9
and
movies.
3/5.
Include Major League. Maybe that's our 10th.
I don't know. We haven't had a 2 shoes, 2 lace on the birthdays. And last year didn't strike crazy hot, except for Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot.
Oh, very true. That was an excellent movie.
That was a good movie. You gave it 79, so far that. Oh, okay. Fugitive.
That's the mark.
It's tied.
That's the mark.
Can't get over it. Oh, wait, no, well, and They Shall Not Grow Old yet.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see with these next 2 coming up as well. But pretty good streak. Last year was just a funky one.
Well, you're trying to surprise me. I feel like in future birthday years we got to do, even though we're saving a lot of westerns, we're saving a lot of James Bonds, we got to go for the heart of what you want to watch,
You tell me I didn't want to watch this? Listen, I wanted
that
to
government.
watch these movies. And last year there were ones I wanted to watch too, but I was trying to go for stuff. And I would say the most disappointing birthday movie so far was Bridge over the River Kwai.
Oh,
the Bridge on the
right.
River Kwai.
Yeah,
We both liked it.
Right.
But we
Respected
didn't love it.
Right. Had some needed some spice in that.
But, I like my picks so far. You can say whatever you want. As far as...
Yeah, looking forward to next year with the second of the 20s, the third of the third. That was truly psychotic.
And then he says, what do you think will be the best movie for the remainder of 2024?
Ooh, wow.
That's a big question. Now that Dune is out of the way, huge question mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean...
Well, yeah, we have, for you, maybe even Nosferatu coming at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Fingers
crossed. That's Eggers, right?
Yes,
Lighthouse. Yeah.
Yes. Now the new Mufasa movie that's coming out, which you're dreading, it is directed by Barry Jenkins.
Oh, really?
Which is like,
okay,
what?
Yeah. Like what?
I don't know. I mean, something that finally we have like some trailer on or something like that. I haven't watched it. Is that Scarlett Johansson, Channing Tatum comedy?
Oh, really?
That also has Ray Romano in it.
Yeah.
And then the monkey movie coming out, it's probably gonna be all right. I have high hopes for Twisters.
Wait, do you mean Monkey Man or Planet of the Apes?
Planet of the Apes.
Oh, okay.
I forgot about Monkey Man.
Yeah,
a lot of monkey business this year.
Yeah, a lot of monkey business.
But as far as what could really hit, I feel like it's going to be something that's going to surprise us a little bit. Like we were expecting to be good. Well, War of the Rohirrim, which is combining my love of Lord of the Rings and your love for anime.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be crazy.
And that's a full feature release?
Oh, yeah. Big director.
Cool.
But it's still from the Tolkien estate, gave the license to.
Awesome.
It's New Line and Warner Brothers producing it, basically, or the production companies. But I do think it's going to be a surprise.
Yeah.
What are you really looking forward to?
I don't know. Well, are you excited for this Horizon Costner thing? I'm so out of the loop on that. It's not even funny. Is that connected to Yellowstone?
No,
okay.
Definitely not connected.
I'm so confused on this the Western cinematic universe.
So the Costner thing, I have the lowest hopes. So in that way, it can at least be a little bit good.
Okay. I like that.
It's extremely expensive. It's 2 parts. They're 2 months apart. He put all of his personal wealth into this film. And you look at it, and it's like a lot of bargain bin actors, a lot of C and B actors, and then just Costner trying to really hold the line. I don't know if he's got the juice. I don't know if the script is going to be good enough, or the action is going to be good enough to.
And it's like one of many, right? It's like a saga or something like that.
Right. Right now, there's 2, and there is talk about it being supposed to be more. High hopes for that? No, I think I've got higher hopes than Twisters.
For Twisters, yeah. That's great. Only other thing I'll say, and a little bit of a plug for next week's episode is I am very excited for Civil War, even though everyone has their knives out for it, and they think that, everyone's divided on this, per the movie.
Yeah.
Next week, I mean, Alex Garland, Ex Machina, Annihilation, Sunshine, these are all wonderful sci-fi movies that really looking forward to revisiting, and have a little high hopes for Civil War.
Do you want me to see Civil War?
I don't know. You might get mad at it. But everyone's going to get mad at it, so we'll be mad together.
But it's not. It doesn't even have to do with like modern day politics. It just has to do with like, what are you doing, bud? What are you doing making
that's
this?
Where
like,
I have hopes for it, that I hope it's able to kind of separate itself a tiny bit and just kind of be a dystopian sci-fi,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Did you see everyone's talking about the map that came out? Did you see the map?
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
Basically, a map. I don't know if people are up with it or not, but basically, A24 released the map of Civil War, so you get to see who's on whose side.
Yep.
And you have Texas and California together.
Yeah.
You have Florida leading their own thing.
Yeah.
You have the northwestern states
as
in their
Florida
own thing.
would.
Right. So I don't know. It's a little bit too on the nose. It's a little bit also too just like it seems like on the nose trash.
Almost a grifter, like trying to poke at obviously what's going to agitate people and get talk on and buzz online.
Yes, but not like I'm not annoyed by the film like I am with They Don't Look Up.
Okay,
you know
fair,
what I mean.
fair.
I'm annoyed on a different level,
right? Where that's preachy. This is exploitive.
Yeah, and it's this. I can't. The whole Civil War talk just that is always just surrounding politics.
You're
now
right.
It just is really
exhausting,
really annoying to me. Yeah, super, super, super annoying. Are we going to will this into existence? You know what I mean?
Sure,
It's
right.
that type of thing, a little bit
Yeah.
maybe. And it's all just a little bit like it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Like it's like we're better than this kind of deal.
Sure.
But we'll see. I don't know because he does do something like an Ex Machina.
Exactly.
And people love Sun. I do want to watch Sunshine.
Yep.
Because people just love that film.
That's where my hope for the film is coming from, is that it's the sci-fi dystopia is first to the story, rather than the political, social, any type of message. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm at least hoping for. Obviously, it's unavoidable to some extent. There's got to be sprinklings of that, but I'm hoping the sci-fi's first, and that's exactly where we're kind of positioning next week's movies of covering Alex Garland's very straightforward sci-fi properties.
And we basically got him covered then because he did Her, correct?
No, Men.
Men, right.
No problem blaming you for that.
You were not crazy hot on that one.
Right. Covered it
struggled with that
randomly.
one,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but again, visually so gripping. His sci-fi vision, his designs.
Yeah.
That's where, like, even this is gonna become the Civil War episode, but I even like the part of the marketing, like the little green army men that he's doing, or the sniper's nest in the Statue of Liberty's torch.
Right.
Things like that. I don't know. That's where I'm about it. I like dystopian sci-fi like that.
Right.
So.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see if I have the bandwidth. Maybe I'll go see it.
Yeah.
All right. So, by the way, Sean, thank you so much. Very drawing producers this year, as we're just trying to build and plant the seeds of the value for value and stuff. Sean, for your $30, thank you so much, and the birthday wish also. Thanks a lot, folks. If you're kind of new to listening to the podcast or anything like that, basically how we do it is Vin and I are not going to deal with advertising on the podcast. When you go on our website, we're not going to have advertising, and we're not going to have paywalls or tier structures. Basically, it's not pay to play. Everything is out here. It's hours of work every single week, and that's the value we put into the daily ratings. We put the value out there. And if you're enjoying it, if you're getting value from it, meaning are you using the website? Are you enjoying the podcast? Or, do you like stopping by when just there's a movie here or there that you're interested in? That's value in your pocket. That's something you're getting out of this. So could you show us back some value? That's why it's called the value for value model that we're going off of. So you go to thedailyratings.com and you go to the donations tab, and through your monetary support, you just peg a number to what value you're feeling this week, and you send it our way. You can write it in a note, just like Sean did this episode, and you become a producer of the Daily Ratings. When you financially support this product, just like in Hollywood, you're an actual producer of that thing. So you will get a producer thanks. We will read your note right here in the producer segment. You will also be mentioned in the show notes and on the this episode on the website as well, just as a thank you to you. It's a value for value model. Again, no advertising or paywalls, anything like that. It's just monetary support. So it's at dailyratings.com. Head to the donations tab. Thank you very much, Sean, once again, producer for episode 129. Thank you. And let's get back to the show here, Vince. So we've got 2 more. Save the courtroom dramas for the end.
Yep, the pair.
This one I know the least talked about because this was the last one on your list to watch. Paul Newman. We've been going crazy with Paul Newman.
Crazy.
I remember. I think it was like
Paul Newman high.
Towards the end of last year, I was like, "Oh, I'm on this big Paul Newman
Yeah,
kick."
yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, I watched this, and this," and you're like, "Oh, are you doing research for your birthday?" And I was like, No. And I totally was. It's just like the verdict was already. I already watched it twice at that point. So I watched it another 2.5. I watched it 3.5 times total.
Whoa. Well, listen, I may not be too hot on this. I'm not trying to get another blood dime in here. On the birthday gift.
Let's get into it. It's Paul Newman playing an aging Paul Newman.
Yes.
So they're trying to gray up his hair a little bit. He's a little bit down on his luck. Playing a lawyer. It's shot in 1982, and the team on this is like well-known Hollywood, like high-regarded as far as directed by Sidney Lumet and written by David Mamet.
Yes.
Huge director, huge writer.
Yep, absolutely.
So let's get into it right away. It's 2 hours and 9 minutes, rated R, 1982, The Verdict with Paul Newman, Vin.
Certainly excited for one more time with Paul Newman, especially since this looked to be a very different role from what at least we covered with him.
Yeah. Which wasn't much.
Right.
Yeah.
However, this movie bored me a good deal.
Really?
It really did bore me a good deal. He goes, oh no.
Okay.
Its structure is hyper-focused on a very realistic depiction of a court case. And for me, my kind of elevator pitch for this is the film kind of feels like it's made for an attorney, kind of a lawyer's lawyer film. Out of the big talent this week, Sidney Lumet, or Sidney Lumet? I don't know. Is it Lumet?
I say Lumet.
All right, I'm going to do Lumet, too. Come on. He is a heavy hitter, directing, most notably, what many consider one of the greatest courtroom dramas of all time, 1957's 12 Angry Men. Mm-hmm. Currently unrated as well, so kind of shifted to the top of the list. Yeah, you're right. Can't wait to tear that one apart. 2 personal favorites of mine is a great doubleheader contender, Al Pacino in both Serpico and Dog Day Afternoon, gems of the 70s. But Tom, for you and me, we have a bone to pick with good old Cindy. His very last film in 2007 ruined an afternoon hanging out when we Did you know this?
I forgot.
When we decided to watch Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, what looked to be a decent film, a very frustrating experience.
Yeah. Before the Devil Knows He's Dead, it is with our boy Ethan Hawke is in it, and he is our boy Ethan Hawke. And then the great Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
And we were just like, wow.
I think more even.
Yeah, definitely bigger actors in it. But the fact was just like, wait, the guy who directed 12 Angry Men, also this was his last film, and it came out in 2007. It's like relatively new-ish. We were pumped. The critics loved this film.
Oh, right, yeah, very.
And
very
we watched
highly
it, and
praised.
first of all, it took us forever to find. It was in licensing hell.
Yeah, yep.
We went to some some offbeat Russian site or something, and we got it. And we were just pissed off.
It was terrible. So yeah.
Overall, great direction.
Yeah, Sydney, pretty good. One little blemish. Also a personal beef more than anything.
Yeah.
So, because you're right. People, or critics more importantly, really, just they love that movie.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much we both hated it, folks. It was bad. The verdict falls within that courtroom comfort zone for our director, though, and is split equally as a redemption story for our lead character, Frank Galvin, as much as it is a courtroom drama. Paul Newman plays a drunkard lawyer, a self-described ambulance chaser, and desperate for a win among a losing streak, both in and out of the courtroom. The case itself revolves around a medical malpractice with top doctors mixing up anesthetic despite knowing better and making a young woman a vegetable. The story takes a lot of unexpected turns, though, as an easy open and shut case complicates itself again and again, usually as a result of Newman blinded by his desire for redemption. This is among the great Alki movies, we'll call it, like Flight with Denzel, where the story kind of revolves around a talented professional burdened by the bottle. But in this, we find a complex character that Newman absolutely knocks out of the park. He's really unbelievable. Even just him playing pinball was just like, oh man, this dude is so
awesome,
cool as ice.
So captivating. It's crazy.
It's wild. It's wild. This and George C. Scott. I mean, like, wow. You can feel how Galvin as a character battles within himself constantly. His desire to prove himself outmatched in every way by his addiction, and then also kind of some fight or flight anxiety to run away from his problems. Most of all, though, I was really able to appreciate Newman's ability to shift into this character and show a lot of vulnerability, almost to the detriment of the character sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially dropping the coolness of what we saw with Fast Eddie from the Hustler movies. I mean, he's still cool, you know what I mean?
I know he is.
He, especially when he gets in the bar with like his non-named buddies, like his drinking
he's
pals.
holding court in a different kind of way.
Yeah. It's just like, it's just magnetic. I was really, my main appreciation with this film was that Newman is such a professional, and I saw him more than just a cool actor. I saw him as an actor.
He's not afraid to go there.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people in his position, even with acting chops, wouldn't necessarily go there.
Yeah. Or even a little bit of the shadow over these old-time actors, these golden age actors. Maybe golden age is the right word for it, but these old big-time actors, they're kind of just them. Like, that's a good example with, like, Marlon Brando. It's just kind of Brando. Even in The Godfather, it's just Brando.
His right-hand man in this, Jack Warden, which I love in these next two courtroom. We do have, like, main guy and then supporting actor to the main guy, kind of.
Both kind of alcoholics.
Yeah. Jack Warden is great in this to his number two.
Yep.
But playing a great role. But it really, Newman, the way he sinks into the character and becomes more soft-spoken. He really only has one outburst. He kind of lets a judge have it at one point. And it's almost like Sidney Lumet was just like, Paul, yeah, you can just go for it on this one. Just go full Paul on this one, and you got it.
Paul, yeah.
But every other scene, he totally mutes himself.
Yeah.
Which is a Paul Newman you're not quite used to, and he does it. I mean,
and even in, like, he has these like kind of semi breakdowns as well. Whether it's supposed to be communicating kind of a withdrawal or just the nerves of the case. Again, it goes from real easy. He thinks he's got a quick payday to, boy, this is the most complicated uphill battle he could ever imagine. So, there's a lot done there. But yeah, I was just very impressed with, or at least my eyes were open to see, like, wow, Paul Newman is an actor able to fit in many roles.
Yeah.
He doesn't, he was able to drop the ego, basically. Where this loses me is the focus on kind of the nuts and bolts of the case. We see a lot of the moment-to-moment playing out in real time. Witnesses, research, witness prep, pre-court negotiation, etc. Wow.
I'm shocked that you're kind of coming down on, now that I know you truly do not like courtroom drama. Because to me, when I'm watching this film, and like I said, watched it 3.5 times now, I'm just like, I think Vin is going to treat this like this is the action. When it comes to courtroom, this is action, and I think this film does it incredibly with all the prep. And again, like in the backroom scenes, especially their Paul Newman is going up against the Catholic Church of Boston, essentially.
Yep.
And so the defense team is huge and looks like the best lawyers around.
Oh, yeah.
The
They're
professor.
killers.
Oh, that main guy?
Yeah. George C. Scott needed to be in that legal team.
The main guy is so good, but how he controls his team and when they're doing the witness prep, to me, this is like well-crafted action as far as a courtroom drama goes. Like,
Sure.
I was bleeding into that.
I like that perspective a lot.
Yeah.
I just feel like it was
You were bored
presented
with it.
so straight and so
Right.
dry. For someone that has a problem with almost every soundtrack ever, I mean, I needed some soundtrack. Call me a hypocrite, but like, I don't know. It was just so about, a realistic courtroom proceeding with it. The time constraints of the story puts us in a 5-day countdown, which I expected to ramp the stakes, and it does. But instead, the approach of the film is to really show us those 5 days deliberately. Granted, this is where a lot of the drama happens and the complications thrown in. The excitement of an easy case isn't the best hook for our story, so I was happy to see them throw the kitchen sink at Newman. I mean, really, anything that could possibly go wrong in this case does. For me, it was so granular and so dry in the presentation that In both a good and a bad way. Bad way for me, but not a bad way for everyone, that I felt like, again, it was like almost like an attorney's law film. I feel like there's an appreciation that maybe was actually a little bit lost on me of how realistic, how accurate the proceedings were. That could be an appreciation in the filmmaking of it.
I'm surprised that this is your big takeaway almost, because you watched this after Anatomy of a Murder.
I did.
Which to me was like watching court TV.
Sure.
In a certain way.
Very theatrical, smoke screen, playing dirty.
No, I didn't mean it like that.
Oh, okay.
I meant like that felt like more of a court scene, more of like Anatomy of a Fall. I understand there was some theatrics from
Sure.
And we'll get into that film. This, to me, felt more theatrical than real.
Really?
Believe it or not, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
But I think also because we're out of the courtroom more, actually, in this one. Than Anatomy of a Murder is crazy how long we're in the courtroom.
Right. Much longer runtime as well.
Yeah.
So.
It was almost like this is the making of court, and then that is court.
Yeah, true.
From this film to that film.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I guess... It's going to come down to how you view it then. I guess I can totally see how you were a little bit bored in it. Like, don't get me wrong.
Right.
You know, it's silent, a lot of quiet rooms and a lot of talking between a few people, and then you're just that. But I don't know, maybe just the way I was able... It caught me on a good day, and I was able to sink into it
3 times.
Right. Then that first watch, I was already... That's my...
Yeah, you're hooked.
Exactly right.
Right.
Yeah.
And if anything, to tie back to Newman, maybe my emphasis was too much on Newman wanting more redemption arc.
Okay.
And when we're getting just such a granular look at witness prep and negotiation and like really like how a case is prepped in this short 5-day window, I guess I kind of wanted more time for Newman's redemption story to take over, even over the case.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Kind of the personal story of the character. But I was very happy I watched this, though, because it challenged my notion about courtroom dramas. As I previously stated, what kind of irks me with the genre is the unrealistic theatrics and blatantly breaking some of the reality of the courtroom. Here, on the other hand, the realism is through the roof. You know, maybe that adds some boredom, but I was appreciated to watch it. You know, barely any soundtrack flourishes to the scene. The lawyers speak directly to the jury. There's very little theatrics within the court. There's very little badgering of the witness.
That is true, yep.
We get one surprise witness, sure, but like, you know, the introduction of evidence, all known. And if anything, that's again where the prosecution team was so lethal and so manipulative. I wish I could praise this approach to the story more, especially when movies like A Few Good Men feel garish in comparison to this, you know,
Isn't it
with
crazy?
their theatric, right? It feels like it's not a courtroom movie at all. This could definitely use just a little bit more spice. I feel like when it comes down to it, I just want even. I mean, I can't talk about spoilers, but even in the very end. There's no music sting. There's no.
I know it's Jack Warden. Just
You're right. And I respect the hell out of it because it's like, well, this is kind of what I always complained about, that the theatrics of a courtroom drama create unrealism. Here, there's more realism than ever, and I find it's still maybe just not my bag.
And and maybe that's just how it is for you then. I will say that's callbacks to 12 Angry Men, because they walk into it, it's the verdict is given, and then all you do is a slow zoom in onto the defendant, and then that's it, and then it just fades. Essentially fades.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess depending on who you are, it's going to hit or not hit.
I think overall, though, a slow movie does not make a bad movie. If anything, just make sure, as far as my recommendation goes, that you're either sold on the nuts and bolts of the case, which I think there is a lot there, and again, how it complicates itself.
Yeah.
Or, again, the redemption of Newman, which is a phenomenal acting performance. I feel I can't give it a super strong recommendation for that reason, but definitely it is a recommendation because I feel like this movie does work. Where this does land as a positive for me is all on Newman's shoulders, though. And if you are participating in the love affair we're having with his acting on the podcast, then it still is very much worth your time. We're going to go ahead and give the verdict... 67.
Okay, 67. It's okay. You prepped me. It's okay.
I prepped you. Blood Diamond was a shock.
67. All right, I respect that take. We definitely come out across differently on this one.
Yeah.
And primarily because I totally agree. I can't even imagine how much this film would be knocked down for me if Paul Newman wasn't helming this.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean, Paul Newman is incredible. that I don't want to leave Sidney Lumet, but David Mamet's writing, I thought the writing was phenomenal. The fact that there wasn't flair or a little bit just the cheesiness of it, every character was written really well for what the character is supposed to be. You know what I mean? Everything down from the main bishop to the opposing lawyer to, I don't know, I really liked the writing per character specifically.
Yep.
I don't know, I really love this film. And I love Paul Newman.
Don't hold back. Don't hold back. I like when we're different on ratings.
This fought me, but it did. I mean, for me, this entire time, this is a very, very high 2 shoes, 1 lace.
They're all 2 shoes.
Okay, and this is why this week I kind of like it was easy, but I was realizing where he was landing, and I was like, this is not exciting. But at the same time, they're very good scores.
Absolutely,
You know what
absolutely.
I mean? And this, so I'll probably can say right now, this was my favorite movie of the week.
Wow,
So that
okay.
just even though these are all 2 shoe, 1 lace,
Yeah.
this and probably Fugitive are highest with this eking it out. We talked about this with Love Lies Bleeding, how it's set in the 80s, and how you were thinking that's very important for that story to be told. I think it's really important that this film was made in 1982. Just the smoke-filled rooms, the way just booze is just commonly drank, the way the bar looked, even though, you know, something about it.
Early on, his ambulance chasing as well, kind of the
way he goes about it.
Yeah. I
think it fit for this time. I don't think you could make really a courtroom drama like this at all today. And you would have to set it back then. All that's super crucial. Even to when some plot twists come later, it's important that, you know, you want to deliver information in person. You know, a phone, you can't hop on a cell phone to deliver this thing. You know, very, very good. So 2 shoes, 1 lace, easy, a very high, approaching 2 and 2 for me. 67 on your end, and okay, I'm actually really happy we're fleshing out courtroom drama. Because we are kind of almost, we had that baseball episode movie last year,
right?
And it's like, what makes a baseball movie? Whether you like these or not, we are getting a good taste of courtroom dramas.
Absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely. And to your point with an appreciation for kind of a multiple rewatches. I think there's maybe more to uncover with the writing, especially around the prosecution angle, that it doesn't lose the realism, but that team is vicious, and vicious in a way that lawyers can be vicious. So I feel like there is some appreciation that I would probably gain on a rewatch of this. I have a really stupid Dune joke again.
Okay. I think I know, because Charlotte Rampling, the eldest Bene Gesserit in Dune, plays the main female in this.
The lead,
female lead in the verdict.
Romance, and again, that's another great point. Yu's very interesting. Obviously can't go into it too deep, but.
Great character.
Great
interesting
character. Again, to the process of the
real
writing.
quick, I'm sorry, before we get to your joke, the bar in this is so crucial, and he's such an alcoholic, where he goes, they're sitting at the bar and goes, let me take you to dinner. And then the next scene, they're having dinner in the bar. Just sitting in the booth. Like, beautiful.
Right,
They do, what's that drink called where you crack an egg in the beer and chug it?
Oh, Hair of the Dog.
Yes. I mean, we got a little bit of that in this film.
He does it twice, too. I'm like, dude.
Does he do it twice?
You're still drinking? Like, well, he starts his morning on that pinball machine, and it's like, oh, boy.
Frosted donut and a shot of Bushmills or whatever the hell he drinks.
Again, these old boozes.
I love it. Go ahead. Your Dune joke, though?
Oh, boy. No, not ready. I was just laughing to myself. No, I don't know. I have no setup.
Go ahead.
Basically, the joke is this woman that is the Reverend Mother of the Bene Gesserit replacing the scene in Dune 2 where she says, "Consider what you're about to do, Paul Newman." And then Paul Newman going, "Silence!" It's stupid.
Oh, that's all right. Give it a flip-flop, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. Flip-flop.
Okay, I'm really glad we watched that movie. I would say if you're on a Paul Newmasons like we are, this has to get watched.
Great. That's a compilation name on the website.
I would say this has to get watched, though.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm still laughing at my stupid
okay. Okay, well, that's enough on that. The verdict, you gave it a 67%. Let's move on to our final film here. This is going all the way back to 1959. I don't know how much you were really feeling about this one. Folks, if you listened to last episode or 2 episodes ago where I had mentioned which films that we were going to be covering, I really felt like I had to sell this. So it was the fact that it was our Something 50s courtroom drama, really high-regarded courtroom drama.
I love the Something 50s.
We get Jimmy Stewart again. Duke Ellington does the sound. And then, of course, our boy George C. Scott is in a supportive role.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. It's our longest film. It's 2 hours and 41 minutes. I'll just do a little bit of background here.
Oh,
real
sure,
quick,
sure.
Which basically, this is based off a book. The book was written by a judge who used to be a lawyer and who went through a very similar type case. So realism as far as real can be.
Yeah.
And at the time this film came out, it was almost... Some people, some critics found this film disgusting because of what they get into with the courtroom.
Yeah.
The fact that the word panties were used, which they make a point to talk about in the film. But in real life, language was used in the courtroom and in this film that you didn't see in films back then for 1959 or before.
Yep.
So it kind of broke some barriers as well.
Absolutely. And plays into the kind of the morally gray focus that this film has.
Right, yeah.
For sure.
Big movie, long movie, but Anatomy of a Murder, Vin, let's dissect it a little bit. How'd you like it?
Well, a whopping 7 Oscar nominations for this one, but not a single win, which is a shame because I feel there was a lot of overlooked talent in the Academy Awards of 1960, some of which we even covered on this podcast so far. The big sweep that year is going to go to the colossal classic Ben-Hur with Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah.
I guess. I've never seen
We
Ben-Hur.
actually have to, that's one that we should probably watch.
12 Angry Men, Ben-Hur. Anatomy of a Murder, on the other hand, fits flawlessly into what we know as Oscar bait in kind of the present day. Prestige cast, strong social through line, and most of all, my favorite genre that Tom has drilled in home this week, a courtroom drama. The expectation walking into this was that it was going to be a great movie. It is universally praised online and near perfect scores across the board. So, big question, does it live up? I would say kind of. I was very positive on this movie.
Okay.
I found myself enjoying a lot of the characters most of all, especially by the halfway mark when we actually get in the courtroom. But up until that point, I kind of struggled on the first half of this while we're piecing everything together in a mixed, almost detective style for how the information is delivered to us.
Yeah.
I'd almost slightly call this a little bit of a noir. Just in, again, how information is delivered, collected, and then obviously that jazzy soundtrack.
Yeah, I think the way it's shot and filmed a little bit absolutely is that first half. Yeah,
absolutely. Believe it or not, I did find this on a list of mine. I was on a list that I titled "Early Titles and Poster Art Stylings." So I don't know, and I really do love the title sequence here. The film, very jazzy.
I knew it was going to grab you.
Yeah, good through line to what we see once we get into the 60s. To me, it worked much like Sweet Smell of Success, where the soundtrack is able to shift in tone rapidly. Famously, Duke Ellington does the music here and even has a full scene side by side with Jimmy Stewart. And while I love the soundtrack itself, I really did like the soundtrack. At times, it felt a bit too upbeat, especially for the gravity of the court case, kind of concerning rape and some heavy topics.
Yeah.
Without going down the rabbit hole of music theory or jazz arrangement, I just found myself wondering slightly if Ellington was the correct choice for the film. Again, a good soundtrack. Was it the correct choice for the film in its tone?
I liked it, especially for that first half.
Yep.
And just even the way the movie kicks off and the, I don't know, some of the beats through a lot of the film. I think when we are in that courtroom, I would have liked to maybe see Duke try to do something different, just to give us a softer style.
Or a little darker even.
For sure. I think it gives us such a unique mark on the film. I would never want to take it away.
Right.
But definitely some elements, I think you're spot on.
Yeah. There was just something to it where it's like, I like this music, but does it exactly fit,
Yeah.
Because the film is kind of dark, very morally gray on all characters, not even just defendants and whatnot. So, Anatomy of a Murder stars Jimmy Stewart, once again in his legal comfort zone, signed to, it feels like that is every role for him, lawman,
Well, we definitely barely covered him. We covered him in 62's...
Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
Right, Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
Yeah.
And I think we both agree we like him better in this film, I'm assuming.
No, I think I like him and Liberty Valance better, yeah.
Oh, just the age gap that they were going for, I was not buying in that.
Oh, yeah, that's so right.
You know what I mean?
I forgot about that. Yeah.
But Jimmy Stewart is always definitely trying to play...
moral upstanding.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Which is why he does have some greatness in this film.
Yes.
Which is cool.
And I think that's where I was at it.
Yeah.
I was digging it. He's assigned to defend a veteran that shoots his wife's rapist in an act of cold justice. And unlike many of his straight-laced characters, Stewart's character here has much more of an edge, willing to risk a bit of his reputation against a seemingly no-win scenario. Unlike the verdict, this is an uphill battle right away. To try to get this guy off with, a very blatant and intentional murder. Pre-courtroom, like I mentioned, it's very much structured like a noir, with us seeing Stewart kind of puzzle together his own thoughts on the dicey details. We see him kind of evaluating everything, and meanwhile, we're getting the information for ourselves. Ben Gazzara plays our killer and is one of many characters that are combative despite having no one to turn to for help. More than anything, this time gives the audience a moment to realize the stakes this case is up against, and that's even before we get to see the prosecution with their prime attack dog named George C. Scott. No, it's even better. It's what is it? Eugene Dancer? What was his character?
His character? Claude Dancer.
Claude Dancer. Hell yeah. That's a name.
I said this when I introduced the film, and then even to you privately after you watched it. I was so pleased with my description of him as a pit bull on a leash. He's in many scenes where he's just sitting there. He's just kind of he's counsel a little bit to the lawyer,
but he's tuned in,
and you're just waiting for him to go, and then when he's just released.
Absolutely,
it's in your face.
Absolutely. So good. Once we are in that courtroom, though, a lot changes about this film, for good and bad. The judge is unintentionally hysterical, played by one-time actor Joseph Welsh. One-time actor. Maybe for good reason. I mean, I enjoyed it.
I thought it was a phenomenal character.
It was good. I just feel like a little out of left field is all.
Okay.
You got to understand that I was digging the moral grayness, the weight, the gravity of this rape case, and then he's like talking about like, well, I don't usually visit the Upper Peninsula, but like it's just like it was so ridiculous.
To me, I think what I liked about both these judges in the past in these two films is that I get the sense that these guys are so been there, done that this really is just a job to them.
right.
And you get that feeling. And this guy being an older judge in the 50s, you know what I mean? I just get this vibe of he's extremely good, extremely knowledgeable, but it's just another day at work for him.
Right.
You know?
He feels none of it.
And I like that. Part of that is actually real to me.
Sure. It captures some realism of that they're not getting swayed by the lawyers like a jury would or something like that.
Right, yeah.
There's actually a few unexpected comedic beats throughout the runtime, which, again, kind of good and bad. I liked it because it was almost like a breath of fresh air in this old 50s movie.
Right, long 50s movie.
Right, a long movie. Also, kind of bad in the sense that it distracts from a strong message that this movie is going for and a strong tone that this movie is going for. Also, not your squeaky clean 50s movie, and most of all, that is a huge praise for me. The variety of dirty tactics used in court to shift characters' ethics around mainly show how much smoke Stewart kicks up as a distraction in this uphill battle, and how much smoke he needs to kick up. But all of this plays and is purposefully shown to play in the main theme of the film, is that people are not simply good or bad. There are many things, and often can shift in the scales of where they lean. I feel like that as the message of this film, of why we're paying attention to this courtroom drama, I enjoyed quite a bit. I thought it was good. My biggest curiosity walking into this is if it resembled at all Anatomy of the Fall. As far as character and stories, no, not at all. But both being kind of 2-hour and 30-plus minute films, they do have a runway to play with how information is unveiled to the audience. Much like The Verdict, I was happy this challenged my critique of courtroom dramas, usually being around kind of unrealistic theatrics. But here, on the opposite end of the spectrum, it's kind of the point. There are plenty of surprise witnesses. Evidence is used as gotchas that just would not be the case. Like, everyone needs to know what evidence is being put in, so they can research it. And it's at the core of this that these kind of unrealistic flourishes, it's very much the point of this one, where realistic flourishes were the point of The Verdict. So I think this was kind of an excellent pairing that you did. That, I don't know, I know we're a little bit in disagreement of I don't know, how the court is playing out, would you say?
Realism versus cinematic.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can see it go either way. Jimmy Stewart is doing stuff in here where it's just like, would a real lawyer ever do that? But then part of it is also like he is playing... Jimmy Stewart playing this character, the character is trying to play a character in the courtroom because he so much has nothing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
Where I think a lot of this cinematic or the theatrics of Paul Newman or in the verdict is off of the court case. That's kind of where I get some of that. I would say, real quick, to connect it to Anatomy of a Fall, which is just so on top of people's kind of mind right now. When you hear Anatomy of, you kind of think fall.
Right.
I see the films as very, very different, except for one thing that we really learned a little bit of the French court system.
Yeah.
And we were just like, wow, this feels like like we're watching a real case, almost watching a real case in France. I kind of, you're in the courtroom way less than that. But for this, I felt the same way, where it's just like you really feel like you're in a courtroom.
Yeah,
and
true.
you're in the courtroom for a long time. So definitely the movie's being so different, but at the core, just like, no. You're coming to court.
Yes,
this
absolutely.
is a courtroom film.
Absolutely. And like I said, kind of how information is able to be, it has the runway to play with how information is doled out. Whether it be this kind of like slightly detective spin in the beginning, or once we're in the court, how kind of twists and turns are layered in.
Yep.
So it's very much the goal of the movie. Once again, I'll say my gut reaction that's being challenged by watching these films is that it's kind of intentionally shooting for something that I would normally critique, but I can't because it's really the purpose of what it's going after.
Right, sure, yeah.
These courtroom tactics, it's follow through on the message of the film that all these characters are gray. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everyone's got an angle.
Exactly.
Everyone's got an angle in this film.
Exactly. I felt that was good as well. And not to compare to my one 50s movie that I like, Sweet Smell of Success, but being late 50s, I feel like it was able to kind of have some grit finally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't even with someone so squeaky clean as Jimmy Stewart. It was able to kind of dirty him up a little bit.
Which is shocking. It was almost against all odds.
Yes.
And that's actually, in fact, what I was going to say, too. Squeaky clean is how the 50s are often looked at. You know what I mean? As far as critically. And I'll always bring up, because we kind of always forget about it, you rated Moby Dick in 87.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, there was
movie.
something there, too.
Excellent movie.
This totally... I think this juggled a lot of actually characters well, but we had that runway as well, like you talked about, where we were able to flesh out all these different personalities, really get a sense of who they are, and then just execute that character. I thought it was really, really well managed, and I think also helped keep the film moving along. I would say some could be cut. We do get a lot with the main actress in it, playing the wife who was raped.
Yes.
That then her husband murdered the guy.
And then goes on to be the mother from The Omen. I forget the actress's
Oh, wow.
name. Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's what I enjoyed, kind of the connective tissue of where these actors were with these old movies.
I think they were trying to oversell her character a little bit too much. We were on her a decent amount.
Yeah, absolutely.
And her and Jimmy Stewart, and they played.
Yep.
I don't know, it's a long movie. Obviously, you can cut stuff. Those would be some of the areas, but I don't know. I didn't really feel... How did you feel the pacing of the film for being so old and so long and it being court?
Well,
okay, all right.
This was definitely the one I was referring to and saying, like, was really tempted to break it up.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm glad I didn't, because I feel like I definitely would have lost the nuances of these great characters and whatnot. And,
you lose the feeling. You do get into it, because you just slip into it a little bit and engaged, Yeah,
all I needed was George C. Scott, basically.
Boy.
I got to be honest, kind of sticking on Jimmy Stewart and his portrayal here. I'm really not the biggest fan when it comes to it, or more specifically his shtick of just like, You actually did a good one. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you did a very good Jimmy Stewart.
I'm with the law. I can't do it.
No, that was good.
But he tries to do something different here.
Yes. He won me over, is my point. Much like Harrison Ford in Fugitive, my expectation was maybe leaning towards hate. Not at all the case here. Won me over, and even though the whiny aspects of his shtick, his routine, they still come through, especially with how clueless he is with stumbling through women. In the courtroom, he just plays such a specific game, this kind of point guard approach to not letting anything slip, because he can't let anything slip.
Yeah.
You know, he cannot make a mistake.
He needs to sell as best as he can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. As the note passed to Jimmy Stewart in the film says, "Look out, George C. Scott is incredible." Despite my movie watching being pretty structured for the next few weeks, folks. I mean, we got a lot of themed weeks, a lot of big releases. I honestly want to watch every movie he's in. I want to go on a tear. I mean,
He is so.
we're about to replace Hitchcock Month with George C. Scott May.
It's not that much.
Yeah,
you know? We covered 2 already.
Yeah.
I mean, how good is he?
So amazing.
You want to talk about acting with the eye? We always say some of the best actors is acting with the eyes.
100%.
I mean, when I got older and I realized actually how good Ian McKellen was at playing Gandalf, it was all the acting with the eyes.
It's in the eyes,
especially in The Fellowship.
Yep.
And boy, George C. Scott doesn't have to be doing much, but what he's doing with his eyes, I'm like, this guy's acting his ass off right now.
You're right. And, especially compared to Stewart, he doesn't have a lot of theatrics to it.
No.
But he's calm, he's cool, collected. He earns your attention. It's so good. I mean, what a killer on screen. You were exactly right with how you described him. I mean, he's the attack dog. He's a precision tool used at the right time. And honestly, I feel like even if you are maybe a little bit annoyed by Jimmy Stewart in this movie in general and whatnot, he just makes him look like a stumbling fool by not going crazy in his acting.
Man, he's so. And we should say he's a supporting actor, but he's not even the main attorney that is doing the not propagating.
Prosecution.
Yes.
Yep.
Because you have he's the AG.
Yep, exactly.
But the town is the main guy. Mm-hmm. And George C. Scott is just coming in.
He's brought in like a consultant, and he's just
like a gun for hire. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, and just I was rooting for good guys a couple times this week. This was a bad guy that I wanted to win. I really wanted to win.
But one of the most morally clear guys.
Yeah.
Like, this guy had a job.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he was there to deliver.
Right. Almost
no fuss.
cold in his logic.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where that spin comes from.
Yep. Yep.
Or that portrayal comes from. But
like when they were in the small scene where they're in the chambers, and Jimmy Stewart is just trying to grease the judge as much as possible. And George C. Scott barely speaks, almost says nothing. But again, just the way this guy.
Yeah, he's like sitting, he's like.
And he's just looking with the eyes going back to the AG, and he's like, this motherfucker's trying to everything.
Yeah. It's so great. But other than that, I got to say, I don't have many more closing notes for the film. This has obviously gone a little bit longer than the other reviews as well, but I'm walking away with a fairly strong recommendation to check this one out. Yeah. Against all odds as far as courtroom dramas, but I really think there was such complexity here on what it was trying to accomplish. Granted, some of that comes with the 2 hours and 30-minute runtime, plus.
Yeah.
So, it gets the chance to be complex. But not once did I feel that this was like wasting my time or anything like that.
Yeah,
it was always tuned towards this message of people are not good or bad. They're morally gray. And sometimes because of that moral grayness, they're shifting on which way they lean and able to shift with that without necessarily like a judgment or some sort of, failure in ethics to it. The real uphill battle here, though, is I am nowhere close to the universal praise this receives.
It is a lot.
Right.
It's heavy.
People think this is like a perfect movie, and hopefully in us even talking about it, whether it's being passionate about it or even just like saying like, yeah, I mean, there's some boring elements to it. Hopefully that kind of tampers expectations a tiny bit with it. This is still a very good movie, well worth your time. We're going to go ahead and give Anatomy of a Murder, 1959, a 77.
Ooh, 77. Really good score, Vin.
Yep.
Really good score. This one didn't fight me at all either. This very simply gets 2 shoes and 1 lace. I'm really sorry about that. But I picked these.
I'm really sorry.
I picked these
really
movies.
Sorry about liking all these movies.
I picked these movies for a reason because I knew they were good and so different, except for we're doing 2 courtrooms, but they're, decades apart from each other.
I really think it was a great doubleheader. As vastly different they were, if anything, it showed in a doubleheader kind of way. You see two very different ways of how to present a courtroom drama.
Yes. And I got to I'll say right now, too, I watched 12 Angry Men kind of relatively recently.
Okay.
I like that movie. I like both of these courtroom movies better than that.
Really?
I like The Verdict and Anatomy of a Murder better.
Because the lawyer focus, or because 12 Angry Men is all jury focus, right?
All jury focus, and it's one room, and great script and everything like that. I don't know. I like these
Sure.
better. I would
Yeah,
say...
yeah.
There's a reason why Anatomy of a Murder is shown in law school. You know, it's oftentimes referenced to, and they just use it. They can show clips of it in the classroom and stuff.
Yep.
There's a great little Jimmy Stewart's right-hand man in this one who really plays a drunk. It was his Arthur O'Connell, the Parnell,
yes.
Emmerich McCarthy.
I think so.
When the jury is deliberating still, or they're still talking, he's just leaning back in a chair, and he just goes down of what a jury structure is. You know, the United States court system. And it's just like, that's all that this movie is. If you are in a strange, weird mood, for some reason you want to watch a courtroom movie, which I don't think a lot of people say.
Right. Unless there's buzz.
Right. If you just want to get a great story, get enveloped, or want to watch an older film as well, this is it, in my opinion. The amount of time in the courtroom, the language that's being used, a hell of a script, which I think is a lot of testament to how detailed that book was.
Yep.
I mean, I just think the film is really good. It is old. It is long. You know what I mean? But there's something about it that, I mean, I watched this twice.
Yeah.
In total.
Wow.
And just loved it. I think if you're ever in that kind of mood, or, 12 Angry Men, that's an old film too. I would totally pick this over it, actually.
Really? Wow. Okay.
And I like 12 Angry Men.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But this film, man, it's if you're ever in that weird mood, I'm glad we covered it for that purpose. I would say The Verdict, where I think I like I do like The Verdict better than Anatomy of a Murder. That is just, to me, a great courtroom film, but a vehicle for Paul Newman to be Paul Newman in a different character in a courtroom movie.
Right. Still Newman, but showing range, showing depth.
So I'd say if you want to watch a great Paul Newman thing, or just want to watch a more modern courtroom, have some thriller, a great character to be watching, The Verdict all the way.
Absolutely.
Really enjoy both these films, but definitely, I really was thinking about that baseball movie a lot, because we are getting the DNA of what makes a courtroom film.
Yeah,
and that was good to deconstruct.
Both of these, that's where I was happy to watch them, and even that goes to the experience of kind of watching these films for the exploration element of it. Though maybe a 67, a 68, these lower scores maybe not sound like the most exciting, I still think like these are coming out very good. And even looking back on the site of like the recent film releases in 2024, it's like beating out like almost nearly everything. So like don't get maybe some of my nitpick critiques confused, folks. Like these are all excellent, and I think these were well paired in a lot of very different ways. Though it seems like a random week of 5, Tom, I think it did. You had some threads.
There were threads.
Yeah.
Now, if I would have thrown a Bug's Life in there, now we've got a different question. Now we've got something different.
Incredible.
Well, we're definitely doing better than Last Birthday movie. Or Last Birthday with the films.
As far as the number. Sure. Right.
And as far as courtroom, let's be honest, like, we're far away from where Kane Mutiny was, which was the most sour you've ever been.
Right.
That's rock bottom.
Yeah, and I can say I hate courtroom dramas. The ones we've been covering, they're all above, you know what I mean? They're passing grades, So,
that's 77%. For God's sakes, excellent. I'm glad I didn't fail completely, Vin. I'm glad you liked this week.
I'm sorry I had to break your heart a little bit.
Well, Blood Diamond was, it's all right. It's okay. Any closing notes here, Vin? Roll credits. Anything left?
No, maybe just keep an eye out for next week again. Excited for kind of the Alex Garland deep dive. And then we're probably going to have another catch-up episode because by doing this Alex Garland one, we're missing Monkey Man. There's also Last Omen. I hear a lot of good stuff for Last Omen as far as horror goes.
Yeah.
So
we will be watching them.
Yeah. So I'll be doing some advanced work to make sure that you get these new movies. So
excellent, Finn. Well, we got some great movies coming in. I mean, we kept on saying that movies are turning up right now. Now that we're in April, we are really rolling, and we've seen some good movies now. And this was a fun week. I'm excited for next week. I'm definitely excited. I haven't seen any of those films except for Ex Machina, so I'm excited to watch Sunshine and maybe even we'll see Civil War. Folks at home, we'll run it down one more time here. So we have They Shall Not Grow Old. Vin gave it an 80%, and I gave it a 2 shoes, 1 lace. We have Blood Diamond with a 68%, 2 shoes, 1 lace. We have The Fugitive with a 79%, The Verdict with a 67%, and Anatomy of a Murder with a 77%. Again, all of those 2 shoes, one lace.
And a happy birthday, Tom.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Producer Sean, thank you so much for being a producer, episode 129. And we will see you all next week on the Daily Ratings Podcast. Hey, if you enjoyed the podcast, if you would, give us a good rating or get the word out and tell a friend about us. And just a reminder that the Daily Ratings is completely producer supported. We want to stay away from advertising, and we don't want to have any paywalls or tier structures or subscriptions. It's all just value for value. So, are you finding value in any of the things that we're doing here on the Daily Ratings? Then become a producer and donate whatever amount of value that is. Just go to the donations tab on thedailyratings.com. And while you're there, be sure to check out the massive amount of films that Vince has rated. So thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Daily Ratings Podcast.